Hey, hello, everyone. We are live.
We're live.
Yay.
Jared, I stole your line because you were drinking at the time.
It's perfect. Okay, thank you. Always got my back. I love it.
Yep, always. So welcome, everybody, to Design Unfiltered. I think this is like our 30,000th one. We've been doing it a really long time. I think we all decided our last one was like February of 2024. So this is
past the year.
Our first one. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a wonderful guest, Jevaun Howell, who's with us. So we will introduce him a little bit more fully as people come on. But I am Joanne Weaver, design recruiter, and Jared Tredly and Erica Fortgang. We are the dynamic trio, the engine of Design Unfiltered. So how this works is that everybody, when you come on, tell us where you're calling in from.
Love that. Love
that. Like where are you? Where are you in the world? Put it in the chat. World. Yeah.
Yep.
We do get people all around the world too.
Yeah. I met a designer this morning that had lived in 3 different cities, Austin. Now he's in New York. Before that, he was overseas, here on a work visa as well. So we obviously bonded over that a little bit. But yeah, I always got a soft spot for my fellow expats, that have found their way to not just the US, but New York City. So
yeah.
Very nice. Yeah, and congrats, guys, on having an international podcast.
Yeah,
very cool.
Yeah,
pretty sweet. Pretty sweet.
So Jevaun, people in India or Pakistan or Australia might be watching you right now.
Yeah,
now. Or Chicago.
Hi, Ryan.
Ryan.
Hey, Ryan. Good to see you, mate.
Ryan, I love that you're always tuning in. So we love you. Thank you for being such a loyal tuner. And you're always like the first one to put your name in the chat. So thank you for getting the party started all the time.
Yeah.
Nice stuff.
Legend.
Yeah.
We also post this afterwards. It lives on LinkedIn that you can find it on our page there and rewatch. You can even rewatch in double time. So sometimes that's handy for me. And I also pop it on YouTube. So we do get a lot of views post episode too, which is always fun because if the time zone doesn't line up for live, you can tune in later.
That is very true. That is very true. Yeah. All right. So who else is here?
Canada.
From Canada. Awesome. You guys just elected a new PM yesterday.
Congrats. Hopefully.
Congrats.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. Some amazing. I was looking through the Webbies yesterday and today, little Webby winners, and specifically a lot of amazing design, like agencies and studios out of Canada, and made up of Canadian-based kind of brand and visual and website sort of designers. And I was like, oh, this site's killer. Who did this? Another Canadian-based team. Yeah, all right, go Canada.
Nice. I feel like a lot of American companies are hiring Canadian teams too.
Yes.
Like I feel like it's becoming a trend.
Absolutely.
Good.
Yeah.
We are sane, intelligent friends to the north.
Yeah.
Very talented.
Yes. Cool. So people, as you come on, put your name, put your location in the chat. We'd love to say hello. Oh, Leslie Hampton from San Francisco.
Hey, Leslie. Good morning.
Yes. Good morning.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Cool. So as you guys come on, just put your location in the chat. We're going to get started and jump right in. But it's nice to like make yourself known. And this is a very interactive format. So as we're talking, as you think of a question, just stick it in the chat and we'll get to it if we can, if we have time. We'll pop it up on the screen so we all see your name and get you involved, and you can pose questions to all 4 of us. And so we'll just kind of talk. We'll just talk amongst ourselves.
Love it.
So I'm really excited to present our amazing guest today, Jevaun Howell, who I have known for too long to mention. But I will say, Jevaun, I was going through my emails to like try to get the live stream link. So I searched for your name in my emails, and it was like going back to like 2013, 2012.
Wow.
Like, we've been working together a long time. And
it's been quite a while.
Yeah. The wacky San Francisco startup days and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I have known and loved Jevaun for a long time. And And he is a seasoned design leader with over 2 decades of experience. He's overseen multidisciplinary teams to create forward-thinking, human-centered solutions. This is Jevaun's bio, by the way.
Yeah, smooth.
Did you like that transition? Pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Very nicely done.
So Jevaun, you've held very impactful roles at companies like Meta, Samsung, and we'll get into some wearable stuff a little later. I think some Samsung stuff might be in there. Fjord, Major League Baseball, and most recently he was the head of design at K Health. You blend strategic vision with empathetic people-first leadership. We love that. You've worked across a ton of industries, building things from the ground up, solving complex challenges at scale, and you bring a real passion for design. Passion, yes.
Yeah.
That's rooted in real world impact and a mindset that stays relentlessly curious. So welcome to Design Unfiltered, Jevaun.
Hey, Jevaun. You, the crowd goes wild.
Yeah, thanks for the awesome intro. Yeah, we've known each other for a really long time. It's been like amazing the entire time that we've known each other. So, super thankful for that. And yeah, excited to chat with you guys about all manner of things today.
Yeah, awesome. And we all saw each other. We all met, all 4 of us got to see each other at the first Design Unfiltered live event in December of last year.
Yeah, which is a great time. Like if you can see these guys live, I highly recommend it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Everybody mark your calendars for July 9th, which is a Wednesday. That is our tentative next date.
Pencil it in. Yeah.
Be there, people. Be there.
Yeah.
We don't want to give too much away, but I think it's going to be a pretty special summer event. A little soiree, if you will.
Yeah.
Here in New York City. Yeah.
It is.
Yep.
It's going to be pretty good.
Love that.
So this is a question for everyone, for all of everybody that's on the chat who's here, and also for you, Jevaun. So Jevaun, if you want to kick it off. But what are you all excited about right now? Right? Like, I feel like we talk a lot about the hardships of the job search, the hardships of the interview process, and that's not to diminish those things. But also there's the other side of life, right? Like what's on the other side of that coin? What are people excited and jazzed about? Is there a project you're working on? Is there something happening in the world or in your own inner world that's really exciting? So drop it in the chat, and we're just gonna chew on that for a little while.
A little positivity.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be work related at all. Anything else.
Exactly.
So yeah, I'll go ahead and run with that a little bit. So yeah, just like a very sort of primal level, like I'm really excited that it's spring. It's like this moment of transition. We're coming out of the super cold months. Like literally everything is like blooming and blossoming around us, and that's for me always been like a very invigorating sort of thing. Nature is full of potential. We're full of potential. So like that's been amazing. I'm very thrilled about that. Allergies aside. So
yeah.
Nice. Any big plans you're doing for the spring? Are you making use of the sunshine or planning on going away anywhere?
Yeah, just like spending time gardening, which is one of my funny hobbies. So yeah, like really excited about that. Really excited about planting stuff and maybe like throwing a spring party or two. So
Yeah. Okay.
Nice. You can serve some of those fresh grown tomatoes at your party.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, fresh mint for the mojitos, like right out of the bag. So, yeah.
Okay, tell us when it is. We'll be there.
Hey, everyone's invited.
Yeah, my address is.
So good. Wait, you have a garden, and are you in Brooklyn? Are you in?
I am, yeah, and I do.
Yep. Okay. All right.
I wish I had a garden.
Cool flex. No.
Yeah, cool flex.
Yeah, look at all my plants.
Yeah.
Like a windowsill garden.
Dirt outside my apartment. Yeah. Dirt that can sustain life. That's pretty good for Brooklyn.
What about you guys, Jevaun? I mean, Erica or Jared?
I can go. Let's see. I had dinner with a friend on Monday who I've known since high school. We have a high school reunion coming up in June. and it's 20 years. So I'm very excited to.
I don't think anyone believes that, Erica. Like
that you,
10 years at the most.
Sure.
Yes, thank you. It's all the water. Drink your water, everyone. But yeah, I'm excited for that. It's going to be. I haven't seen these people in since we graduated. Maybe a 10-year reunion, but I don't really remember that.
Okay.
That's so cool.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah.
It's a good excuse to get back with some friends.
Yes.
See how far you've come, maybe reflect a little, hopefully.
Yeah. I feel like they're gonna have some, old photos probably propped up, which I'm nervous for.
Well, you'll have to post the craziest ones on LinkedIn so we can all see.
Oh,
of course.
yeah.
We'll get
Graduate Erica, bring it on. Do you think a lot of people understand what you do, like how we, because it's something like that, people, so what are you up to, what do you do, are you you're like, recruit,
I don't know.
You're an entrepreneur, you're a business founder.
Yeah, I think a lot of people went into like finance, I think, and maybe entertainment, so I think they might know, they may not.
Okay.
We'll see.
That's always my sidebar question to especially designers when I interview them. Sometimes I say, how do you describe what you do to friends and family? Because it's sort of like, because we know what it means, but how would you explain product design to what? On my side, what am I excited about? Stole my thunder, definitely spring, loving it. Yes. I have a motorcycle, so I've been riding that. I don't really ride it in the winter, but that's been coming out a lot more, and that's my commute into the city and around the city. So that's been really both fun and then sometimes stressful because it is a different way to get around as opposed to the train. But yeah, enjoying that. Getting jazzed up on a bit of cool design I've seen recently, or just looking at some portfolios or people's work, or just, I don't know, getting excited about some of that as well, which is always fun. I've been working on a bit of stuff in the branding space recently. I did a lot of work with companies on product design, but also working on some branding stuff, and I do enjoy a bit of that too. So just great design kind of jazzes me up. So it's been fun too. Been getting a bit excited about that.
Yeah, very relatable.
Yeah.
How do you describe to friends and family what you do?
Me?
Yeah.
It's just stuff. No, I don't. I'm terrible at it. I'm really unsuccessful at explaining my work, I think, to people. I say sort of consultant, or I work with designers. I say, all those apps on your phone? Yeah, I'll hire the people that make those.
That's what I say. Exactly.
Right, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I usually just say headhunter for design, and not the stuff that's like marketing, selling you stuff, but the stuff that's like the foundational stuff. People usually get that.
Okay. Okay.
Joanne, what about you?
Yeah, what are you excited about?
Let's see. Mine isn't really work related. I mean, work is, doing its thing. But I co-hosted the local upstate karaoke night.
Oh, wow.
At the local Mexican restaurant. They have karaoke every Friday, and I go pretty regularly with a friend of mine. And it's just this wild cast of characters. It's just this beautiful amalgamation of like every single personality, every single skill set in there. It's so amazing. And the woman who usually hosts was having surgery. And so she was going to be out for a few weeks. So me and my friend Laura, we volunteered to be the hosts for the night. It was so fun.
Wow.
I'm usually, if I'm on stage, I'm singing jazz stuff, so it's kind of sophisticated and, kind of understated. And instead, it's like I finally got to go on the mic and I was like, give it up for Chidi. And it was really fun. It was very cathartic as a performer at the mic and get to actually yell in it,
Okay. You've been going consistently. You've been going for a little while. Is there anyone at the karaoke that maybe they have like a go-to song and they just keep doing it week in, week out?
Yes. Well, she's actually switched it up a little bit. She used to always sing George Michael's "One More Try," which I
like George Michael.
Well, I'm getting ready for my George Michael show, so I'm trying to like get songs in the karaoke to like practice. And I'm like, I can't do that song.
Your thunder. Yeah.
I know. Well, yeah. A little bit, but it's fine. It's fine.
Cool.
That's great.
Cool. So let's dive in. This
Yeah.
was fun. What a great note to start on. That was great. And hello, we got Douglas Hoff from Madison, Wisconsin. Hey, Douglas. Thanks for joining us.
Drove through there this time last year. Driving through there in a couple of weeks again. So there you go.
Oh, nice.
I'll wave, Douglas, from the car.
Nice. Are you driving cross country to go to config?
No. I'm going to go to config and come back, and then I got a drum exhibition in Chicago that I do every year. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's dive into it with you, Jevaun. So tell us, like, what are you really passionate about these days? Like in the world of design, this could be like personal life stuff too, but like, what are you really jazzed about in the design world?
Yeah. Right now, I'm really in love with the idea of where things are going to go with wearables. And it's kind of funny because I feel like what we would sort of characterize as wearables of like the last 20 years, like a lot of that like consumer technology has largely been sort of like probing, playful exploration, but there haven't been these sort of like real major watershed moments of evolution. Like a lot of like initial explorations into like different forms, different delivery mechanisms, different features, but like very few really captured the public attention and had broad lasting appeal. The big obvious exception is really the smartwatch. And, I think there it's really the Apple Watch, which turned 10 years old last week, which is
really
crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, I think like the interesting thing about the Apple Watch is the space that it currently occupies. So initially, Apple sort of put this thing out in very grand fashion, touting it as like the obvious successor to the iPhone and mobile phones in general. And, then they pivoted slightly and thought, hey, maybe this is really about being a, sort of explicit luxury item and like status symbol. And that didn't quite take either. A lot of ways they were really sort of unclear about, having like a concrete use case or having clear product market fit. But they sort of had an inkling that there was something valuable about the wrist and that space and, maybe extending capabilities of your phone. And so it's been interesting to see over the course of the last 10 years that they had a couple of like aha moments. And so the first real aha moment was like this declaration that this piece of tech tells time. They had this whole marketing campaign, declaring that, hey, this thing does like cool things, but it primarily functions to tell time. And that was great because I feel like that did like a little bit of a reset and performed a degree of grounding so that it made it familiar to people again. It's like, it is just a watch. And that watch has superpowers. And so, I think it's sort of interesting because the sort of original wearables were glasses, and they have been largely unchanged in the last 750 years. And so now, we've got glasses that I think are also, pretty interesting examples of successful wearable tech, where they have cameras, they take pictures, they record video, they play music, they give you access to information through an AI. And that works because they are glasses sort of first and foremost. And so there's an interesting sort of like duality there where I think grounding a lot of this stuff in the familiar has allowed both Apple and, more recently Meta to sort of successfully roll these things out in a way that people can start to latch onto and really sort of see the benefit. And a lot of that is because instead of over-promising, you're just saying, here's the thing that you've always known, but now we've enhanced it this way. And so I'm super excited about a lot of that sort of stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, it feels like we haven't really had something that took off as much as maybe, say, the smartphone itself.
Yeah.
Right. Like just about every phone owner probably has a smartphone. It's pretty rare to, every now and then I'll see someone with a flip phone and I get so jealous. Oh,
I know,
I want.
I know.
But I guess in the wearables case, the smartwatch would be maybe the next thing that I guess probably had most traction out there, but certainly not to the mass that maybe the smartphone has had. Yeah. Do you?
I mean, where is this going? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, it's exactly that. What do you think is next? Like, where's that going? Yeah. What do you think would be the next thing?
Great minds.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. It's interesting where it's going because I think for Apple, their second big aha moment was, sort of realizing which features and capabilities made sense to focus on, right? So forget about replacing the phone, forget about pushing the $10,000 Hermes accessories. They really sort of doubled down on the idea of fitness motivation, activity tracking, sleep tracking, cycle tracking, that sort of thing, fall detection. So this pivot into health really gave the Apple Watch purpose and differentiation and cemented its place in the public. And, like a lot of their recent branding work, almost sort of borders on making it seem negligent not to have an Apple Watch for emergencies and detecting things like AFib. And so it's been interesting to see how much of a fit this has become and how deeply they've embraced that position as a sort of leading wearable device for health and wellness. And so it definitely kind of feels like there's a lot more to probe and explore there.
It's beyond gimmick and gone.
That's why I got it.
Pretty cool. For health reasons, like tracking.
I got it because like all my friends, you can connect with them and compete with them and see who closes your rings or whatever. And then that kind of died though, like when some people don't charge their watch or wear it anymore. So it was like me against myself. And so I check like my rings and make sure everything is like every day and different like challenges, but that's really all I use it for.
And telling time.
Yeah, that old school thing.
Right, exactly. I know I get so irritated in my iPhone sometimes where I'm just like, it's supposed to be a phone. I mean, it has so many other bells and whistles, but when the phone part doesn't work, I'm just like, but this is what it is. Right?
Job.
This is what you are. Don't you understand your job?
Yeah.
No, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that this is headed in a way, and I'm just kind of curious, like your own interest in wearables, like where did that start and where is that coming from? Because I'm kind of thinking like, is this sort of like a Philip K. Dick, like we're all going to turn into cyborgs and, you can't really figure out the human side from the robot side. Like where does that come from?
Yeah. My own interest in this area goes back a while. And so certainly like over the last 20 years, I've been a pretty sort of long-term early adopter. So I think maybe the first explicit piece of wearable tech that I bought was a jacket that Burton used to make in the early 2000s called the AMP jacket. And so it had some controls on the sleeve that allowed you to control your iPod. That's how far back it was while you were snowboarding. And I loved that jacket. I loved it to death. It was amazing. It had like a very sort of simple kind of fussy technology. But it really, to me, was like the first significant moment of like, oh my gosh, like we're bringing technology, to our person. And that's incredibly exciting. And so after that, it was like a series of all sorts of other things. So the Feel Band from Nike, which was like an early health fitness wearable, where they were maybe not 100% sure how to track things like, steps and calories and all that. And so they developed, this sort of like fuel point system, which was an interesting abstraction. And honestly, like I still really like that implementation. Just looking at where wearables are now. Like my son wears a Fitbit and he's always sort of touting, like his number of steps. And so on days where we're both going out and doing stuff and playing basketball and doing whatever, he comes back with almost twice as many steps as I do. So, like the data that's being recorded on the Fitbit versus the Apple Watch, they're not in sync. But so, the fuel point thing as an abstraction was sort of interesting. And, Erica, to your point, it was funny because early on, a number of folks had them and everyone was sort of competing. And ultimately that did sort of fall away a little bit, the competitive aspect. But I think the underlying idea of sort of personally tracking your own health still remained for a lot of those folks. So
love that.
Yeah.
Can I
Was
ask?
the interest?
Oh,
Oh,
go.
sorry. I was going to say, was the interest in like the health usages of wearables, was that something that got you interested in joining K Health, the healthcare startup that you were most recently at?
Yeah, no. So I feel like it was definitely a part of it, and so at K, some of the stuff that was really kind of interesting was, where additional technology was coming into play. So like things like AI and how we could leverage that to help with better health outcomes. And so, I think broadly across wearables, like that's the thing that we're going to see accelerate pretty dramatically in the coming years. But yeah, specifically at K, one of the things that was really quite interesting was how we leveraged this clinical grade LLM to do things like analyze like a large data set around hypertension. And so we took a set of cases, I believe it was 16,000 cases, and built a model with anonymized, aggregated patient data, and used the model to do some analysis, and basically came up with a way of helping physicians personalize treatment and stabilize patients with hypertension. And so the model was really effective in predicting optimal medical regimen based on gender, age, ethnicity, comorbidities, blood pressure, relevant lab results. All which ultimately led to better outcomes for antihypertensive treatments, minimization of side effects, that kind of thing. So it's funny because so we did this study with the Mayo Clinic. So it's peer reviewed. It's very I think indicative of where things are going to go. Because things like scale and pattern matching are factors that AI handles exceptionally well. And so like as impressive as this truly is, it's really just the tip of the iceberg. This is 16,000 cases, which is big, but hypertension affects half of all US adults.
Wow. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And hypertension, just to be clear, is high blood pressure, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, so it's essentially high blood pressure. There are various stages of it. And it's a little like what happens if we go beyond just these sort of like points of care, and typically that's someone going to the doctor once, maybe twice a year, taking their measurements, looking at the difference between measurements before, whatever, and if they're recording their numbers in between that, that's great. But what if you could pull all of that together but run it on like a more constant or live basis? Like imagine sort of like day-to-day information or hour-to-hour information. What happens when you start to monitor like their systolic and diastolic measurements, look at things like dosage times, like efficacy cycles, and what if we looked well beyond 16,000? Like what if we had even 160,000 or 16 million people? Suddenly you start to understand treating the disease at a much deeper level in ways that we can't even really fully appreciate right now. And so that sort of scale, that sort of opportunity, that's certainly a big part of what gets me excited about all of this, and sort of a combination of wearables and AI.
I love that. That's awesome. Huge. I wanted to ask a bit of a combination of wearable and design related question, but what do you think as a designer, that a product designer, for example, and you've been in that space, but you want to start doing more work in wearables, or it's an area of interest like yourself, like what skills do you think make a designer likely to be more successful, stronger at working on things for wearables? Would there be areas that they would try and spark on? Because it's different to maybe an interface for your phone. Maybe there's more service design elements that need to be factored in. Like, what should a designer work on to be more effective for designing for wearables?
Yeah, it's a really great question. I think there's what it sort of looks like right now and what it will probably look like in relatively short order. But certainly right now, I think service design is certainly a huge part of it. I think that holistic problem solving, that sort of like end-to-end design, sort of accounting for, human behavior, accounting for, device interface, accounting for the nuances of like having to, sort of put something on and, what that means in terms of the overall experience. Certainly that plays a huge part in it. I think there are also aspects of it that are quite a bit different than, say, designing for the phone. Certainly when you talk about using haptics and things like that to maybe start to, give subtle hints or subtle reminders, and really, kind of embrace the idea that the wearable is a secondary device in a lot of ways, and so it probably shouldn't be shouting for attention the same way that some of the other things do on our phones. I think going forward, particularly as we start to roll AI into a lot of this, like I think we will have to start thinking more, with like a little bit more of a social EQ lens to a lot of this. I have like a couple of like sort of hot takes about where some of this stuff is going.
Hey, we're here for it.
Lay it on.
Let it rip. Get spicy.
So I'll give this one, and then maybe we can come back to some of the others. But like, I think that the best wearables won't have screens; they'll have manners. Manners, yeah. Manners. So, okay. Yeah, like right now we're kind of crushed under infinite notifications and the idea of glanceable UI. I feel like a big part of the future of this is going to be sort of ambient, calm, sort of polite tech. So devices that tap your wrist or warm your skin or vibrate subtly or whisper instead of shout. So as we start to roll in these AI assistants and things, devices and experiences where, they wait for appropriate pauses in, say, like a human conversation to pass along information or updates. And so, as designers, it really does mean thinking beyond interface and, starting to design for sensation and flow and social EQ. So.
Interesting.
Wow.
I like that. I can only hope it goes that way.
Me too.
That sounds lovely. God. Nothing spicy about that. That's delightful.
I feel like so many people are starting to use like black and white mode on their phones these days. And me, it's like I buried my Facebook app on my fourth screen of my iPhone just because I would literally, the synapses in my brain were so ingrained that my finger would just go there.
The muscle memory is insane. Like, our phones are basically functioning like little casinos, like just blinking. It's, it's just plugged right into, the dopamine release.
Wow. But I love that that's the future, that it's going to be, hopefully a more subtle, kind of an antithesis of that, because I think people are getting sick of that. Like, I think they're actually getting pretty angry. I'll speak for myself. Like, I'm actually really irritated at the fact that all these social media companies are all about getting you addicted. Like, that is the goal. It's not a bug of the system. It's a feature of the system. And so I think that the more that we as a society can make a conscious choice of like, how do we get out of the oppressive nature of that and get our lives back and actually have technology work for us, not pull us into this like dark web of things that maybe we don't really want to waste our time doing, and then we find that we do, right?
Do you think there's an instance in where people actively go back to the dumb phones, like the flip phones, and like have a wearable that's what they call it, dumb phones, like away from these like apps and like really go back to life before?
There's definitely a movement afoot around a lot of that, and so you have folks who will use the light phone, which is sort of super stripped down, black and white interface, like just enough to not be fully disconnected from society, but hey, we're leaving the casino behind. I'm going to try to be present and try to be there and focused on my friends and family, that sort of thing. There's definitely like a pretty big urge for that. And then, like there are lots of folks who, embrace the flip phone. And, I think where they all sort of run into trouble is, it's not that they want to outwardly and explicitly reject their smartphone in perpetuity. It's like, hey, for the next couple of days, I just want to take a little break, a little like digital detox. But it's hard to, sort of take your identity essence, whatever that's attached to the phone, and move it to a flip phone. Just, like SIM cards, things like that. So, there's enough friction there that it makes it difficult for people, but like the desire is clearly there. So
I've definitely been using a lot of like time blocker apps and tools.
I set it up profiles as well. Weekend profile, night, sleep time profile. Things like that have been helpful.
Exercise.
There you go. I have a two-parter. If I can, to go back to like we were sort of saying, like some wearables haven't really taken off as much or not as popular, but there's always new things coming. Like what would be one wearable type device that you wish did take off more and more people say had, and then the flip to that is what's one you kind of wish went away, or would say like if we had to get rid of one wearable, let's just do without that one.
That's a good question. So the one that I wish had taken off it's a little bit of a niche thing, and like I don't necessarily think that that many folks used it or paid any attention to it, but like it was this thing. It was the BioBand.
BioBand.
It looks very Star Trekian.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool. It was a control device for you could basically use it to control things on your computer, and the promise was that you'd be able to use it to control other things as well. And so you put it on your forearm, and it reads the electrical signals as you make different hand gestures.
Wow.
It doesn't do that. And
quite
so
a fashion statement too. There you
go. What's the purpose of that? Like, what is it reading?
So as you like move your hand into different positions, it can read like the electrical impulse, right? So my electric impulse. So you could map those different positions or poses or what have you to different functions or commands. And so you could say map it to your keynote presentation and sort of like do that to tell it that you're going to give it input, and then swipe to have it go to the next slide, or swipe that way to go to the previous slide.
Iron Man kind of
performance.
Okay.
But so
I believe it never took off.
Exactly. Your charades and everything just starts to fritz out in your computer.
Like the whole house starts falling apart. So it was funny because it had this sort of like initial kind of like pop, and there were some folks who were very passionate about it, and then it sort of all kind of went away. I do think that the underlying technology has kind of been essentially rediscovered by the folks at Meta, and so like I don't know if you saw anything about the neural band that's supposed to come out, but it's the same sort of underlying technology, and I have no doubt that they're going to sort of build and iterate upon what these guys initially started. So that's pretty exciting, I think, in terms of being able to control some of our other devices, control stuff around us, and potentially serve as maybe one of the beginning stages of some of that calmer tech. So like having those subtle nudges to let you know that like, yes, this thing has happened, or hey, there's this notification for you, or what have you. So
interesting.
Yeah.
What are you getting rid of?
That's one that you're like,
that's a hard one for me, man. Like I'm a longtime collector and lover of all of this stuff.
How many things do you have?
Yeah,
I have quite a few. I think maybe the most interesting wearable that I have that also no longer works was Nike did this whole thing with sensors in your basketball shoes. That you could use to, you remember that? And so it would tell you, your sort of like quickness, your speed, how far you had run during a game, all sorts of stuff. And I loved that thing. It was so sort of clunky and awkward, but like the promise that it hinted at, like the potential that was there, was amazing in my eyes. So
the world just wasn't ready.
It just wasn't ready. I wish we would go back to it.
I
We
know.
gotta get
Well, I mean,
back
the
to
good
that.
news is that we're like in such an interesting moment with AI. Like, I just feel like
Come
technology has
around.
already been exponentially evolving. And I feel like with AI, it's just going to just supercharge that. So I feel like the stuff that seems like it's, oh, this is of the future. It's like the future could be like in 2 weeks now.
Yeah,
You know,
no,
a year.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, in that case as well, right? Like we're talking about something that are, where these are just shoes, right? So like, how am I taking these and making them smarter, making them more interesting, basically taking the data that just sort of already exists and turning it into meaningful insights and actions. So
Yeah. I want to shift gears a little bit. I want to put Kunal's question up on the screen. So he asks, as somebody transitioning from UX UI to product design, I'm actually kind of curious what the difference is between those two things. Kunal, if you want to maybe put something in the chat, what is the difference between those two things? I'm curious, how do you see the role of designers evolving in the next few years? Are we moving beyond screens and interfaces to influence business and strategy more deeply?
Yeah, great question.
Designers are expected to do everything.
Yeah, that is in fact the answer. It's basically a yes and. We are. I don't think that screens are going to go away at any point. Sort of regardless of how good our wearables get, our accessories get. I think the phone has a unique hold, and for all the things we fault it for, is a very useful component in making all of this stuff work. So it'll be, yes, we're doing the screens, but we're also, accounting for all the other things, in the sort of constellation of devices and experiences that go along with any of these. And so I sort of hinted a little bit at the idea of social EQ as a thing we will have to consider. Right now, you think about things like conversational design, for like a lot of the chat interfaces. I think for AI, that's kind of where we are right now for a lot of these things, but all of that is going to change. This is literally just the first iteration of how we're engaging with these things. But yeah, it's going to be doing a little bit of all of it, because ultimately at the end of the day, the users that we're serving are going to expect all of this to play together harmoniously. So, it's going to be a little bit of a soup to nuts kind of thing for designers.
I've connected with a couple of companies in the last few months that at early stage, so they're still forming, but are opting to focus a little bit more on their first design hire or those early design hires, more so than they are on, say, a product hire. Maybe you've got a founder that's kind of quasi running product, but the expectation is that the designer will kind of run a bit more of that PM type role. That research, that connection to the user, that understanding of what they need, translating that into, well, what should that be in that product, feature prioritization, whatever it might be, and then obviously designing for that, and then jamming straight with engineers to build it. But that, I just see all that spectrum. I see design just pushing much more up that spectrum into product, to the point where companies can kind of go, I think we're just going to hire a designer that has a bit of that product cap that they can put on. And that will be our early hire. So therefore, as a designer, if you can think that way, and you're already connecting to users anyway, and if you're really translating that back to business impact, then you're the person that these companies want to hire as well. So I feel like things are heading that way as well. That meshing of those roles, that crossover, and then even back the other way now with engineering. So design engineers.
That's super exciting. And I think for that type of work, finding talented service designers will take you really far, because again, that sort of holistic end-to-end thinking, what's it like for the customer to first hear about this product and discover it, onboard into it and use it, and even ultimately say goodbye to it. What's that experience all feel like? Those are the folks who are thinking about these things in that way, and sort of tackling problems in that way. So
interesting.
Is there like a certain, like, for people who don't really have necessarily that business mindset, is there a class or like something that they can take in addition, like if it's a founding designer role, and like if it's a larger big tech organization and they've been just doing design, how do they tell their managers or their peers, like how do they get into the business side?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a really good question. I mean, I wish there were like a sort of like magic bullet solution that was on the tip of my tongue in terms of classes and whatnot. I'm sure there are some, but I would say like within the context of the companies that they're already in, like go to some of the meetings where they're talking about revenue. Go to some of the meetings where they're talking about strategy. Just sit in, help them build decks or what have you, because a lot of that. I think has traditionally been sort of opaque to designers. I think much to our detriment. A lot of times designers get very upset about decisions that get made where, hey, we're not going to go in this direction. But a lot of the time it's really just because it's not economically viable. It doesn't make sense for the business. We don't have a strategic advantage going this way versus this way. And all of those things are important, I think, if you want to take a proper holistic view of problem solving. And so, thinking as a designer more about more like being a problem solver and being a little less like, someone who's being a very kind of precious artist about it, I think will certainly help in terms of your ability to, have impact at scale and to kind of move beyond just being seen as someone who is, primarily concerned with, some of the interactions and, the overall aesthetic.
Yeah. I saw Jose Coronado, who's a fantastic speaker. He's big in the design ops world, but he comes out of UX design. I saw him speak at Priceline a few months ago, and he was saying basically just that, that designers, if you want the seat at the table, the proverbial seat at the table, right, to do the research, right, like to sit in on these meetings as you're describing. But he's like, there's a lot of public information that companies have about their business and the inner workings of the business and their revenue. So just to get really curious and really conversant about the business side of the business, because that is ultimately where designers need to be to continue to have a seat at the table or to gain that seat at the table. So
totally agree.
Yeah. When you're looking at design leadership roles, sort of for yourself, I guess, like design matters to you. The way that a company values design matters. You've worked at the leadership level for a while. Are there signals that you look for in a company to know, like, okay, I can have the impact here, or this company understands design and they're embracing it, or maybe they don't, but they seem open to it? Like, how do you get signal like, okay, this will hopefully be a place to have great impact and success, versus like, oh, this is probably not as design centric as I would like?
I kind of feel like the biggest signal is typically inquiring about the design team, what they're doing, how they're feeling. And
what are they excited about recently? You can borrow the question. There you
go. But if it's, the designers are feeling kind of burnt out and they don't feel like they have a voice and they're operating more as a, sort of shared service, those are typically signs that like, okay, like this place does not necessarily value design as a skill. And they are, it's quite likely that there is a founder or a senior PM that fancies themselves a design lead who is sort of running that team in the absence of a design leader. So those are red flags ish. What you, I guess, ideally want to hear is, the team's really happy and excited. Their previous leader has transitioned to a role that they just had to take. But they're looking to sort of continue and deepen the culture that's already built. Like those are big time green flags, and So.
Okay, that's a good way to assess. I like that as well.
And what's your favorite interview question that you've received or given?
When I joined Fjord, the leader at the time asked, what are people going to love about working with you? Which I thought was a very interesting question, because it wasn't
my wearables collection.
Exactly. Yeah, because it wasn't, what are you good at, but what are the things that people will appreciate, on a day-to-day basis about, what are you working on, how you operate, and I think asks you to step a little outside of yourself and really think about the impact that you have or haven't had with other folks. And a lot of it, I think, also opens the door for you to be more human about how you interact with folks. Yeah, and then sort of conversely, like right after you answered that question, he would ask, okay, what are people going to hate about working with you? Which I also appreciated because it it asks you to demonstrate a degree of self-awareness and acknowledge the things that you are not necessarily good at or places where you've had trouble in the past, and then gives you the opportunity to talk about how you're going to continue working on those things or remedy those things. So I've adopted those as questions that I always ask as well.
I love that. And I love that last question too, because it brings us a certain amount of like vulnerability and like self-sharing, right?
Yeah.
And I would imagine like as the interviewer, it could be powerful. And I think you told us that you do this, that you bring something out first to like kind of set the stage.
Just to coax them along, hey, it's okay. It's a safe space. Like, let me tell you about like the things that, I do not do well. What you're hoping to hear is some of that, genuine vulnerability from them as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then you're getting like the real stuff, like you're actually getting to know the person, like for real.
Yeah. You're not getting the like, oh, I'm too much of a perfectionist. Like, okay, great.
I know. Let's see. We have some comments from the chat too. Just going back, this is probably, from earlier part in the conversation, but Cesar, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Hopefully I got it right in those 2 tries. There's a Swiss company called Punkt that is all about going back to basics.
I'm eager to check that out.
I haven't heard of Punkt before, but I'm not big in the space. So
yeah, I like that. Maybe it's like a light phone-esque company making that kind of basic version or strip back. Yeah.
No, like I said, I think there's a lot of power in grounding things in like the simplest base version of itself, and then kind of like layering on top of that. So going back to basics +1.
Yeah.
Like
right. And then Chris Novak. Hi, Chris. Thanks for showing up again. It's nice to have you back. One thing for designers to lean into is to understand the difference between strategy and planning. Those are often confused even outside of design. But being able to tease out true meaning between those is super powerful for design to impact at the right altitude. Strategy and planning. So strategy, I'm just going to riff on that. Like I'm curious what the difference is between them. Like, how do you define that, Chris? If you want to pop that in the chat. You said watch most anything from Roger Martin on the topic as well. Okay, so we can all educate ourselves. That's great. I would think that like maybe strategy is like, why are we doing it? And then the planning is what we're doing, maybe?
Yeah. So, I mean, at least in my estimation, I sort of look at strategy as, so let's say we're doing we're trying to stand up a new product. Let's talk about what the first version of that needs to look like. We don't necessarily have to get like the full North Star version of that vision on the first try. And as a matter of fact, we should probably try to build like the smallest lovable version of that thing. And so like, what's our strategy going to be around collecting signal from that first version, and how might we start to iterate this thing out, based on that, so that we ultimately get to some version of that North Star strategy. And then planning is really so, week 1 looks like this, week 2 looks like this, week 3 looks like that. So, I guess in a lot of ways feel like the strategy determines how the planning is going to take shape.
Right. So it's like strategy comes first, and how do we actually make that live in the world and a real thing? Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Chris. Awesome. Let's see. Sarah Phelps. Hello, Sarah.
This is really interesting.
She says, do you have any opinion on this? More businesses are using AI tools for qualitative and quantitative research rather than actual human users. How do I advocate for the use of more humans and less AI? I love AI tools, but I'm not sold on this being a good or accurate reflection of business needs, at least not yet.
Yeah, I agree.
There you go.
For as much as I love and appreciate the potential for AI, I have always said, certainly to my designers, that you can't outsource your insights. Like, you need to go and talk to people. You need to actually like sit and witness and experience and all of that. And frankly, the data that we have from AI on a number of these things is limited to what's been published about it. So we're getting a picture, but maybe not the complete picture, and maybe not the picture of the particular users that we're looking for. So there are, sort of definite gaps based on, geography, locale, all sorts of stuff. So yeah, I certainly would push for more human-to-human interactions, because again, at the end of the day, all the stuff that we're working is supposed to be in service of humans. So
word up. I actually saw something. Hung Lee has a group out in London, and he puts out recruiting brain food, I think.
Yep.
And there was this deep fake interviewee. I don't know if you guys caught this video, but this woman was recording this video interview with a candidate, and the candidate was a fake candidate. It was a fake person, like visually. And so she's getting some signals that this was a fake person. So she's like, "Can you put your hands up on the screen so I can see them?" And he kept avoiding the question. And finally, she's like, "No, I need to see your hands." And then he just left. Whatever this thing was, left the call. And it sent out a bunch of shockwaves. So it's like, oh my gosh, is this what's happening? Like, is this going to happen more and more? Like, how do we tell what the fake is from like a real thing?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how this evolves, and then what are the ethics that comes in? Like, what are the guardrails that comes in around this too?
Yeah. Yeah. No, we're definitely going to see more and more of it. The things that kind of move technology forward are porn and crime.
Yeah. Always pushing the
and cats. The internet.
Cats
too.
And cats.
Yes, cats.
Fair.
That's how I get stuck in Facebook for hours, because I'm like, oh, there's an orphan kitten.
No.
It's like 2 hours later, and I'm like, what have I been doing? Like, what?
I love that. To go old school, I have to print you just a book of cats, and you can just get lost in that maybe instead.
But like pause for 5 minutes,
Offset litho cat action.
There you go.
Chris Novak chimed in on his strategy versus planning. He says, in super short terms, planning is what you control, and strategy is about a bet you're making about the things you don't control.
Okay. Well said.
Yeah. Great. So we're about to wrap in a couple minutes. This has been such a wonderful conversation, Jevaun.
Yeah, I've had fun with you guys.
Thank you.
I learned so much. I mean, I think we all learned so much about wearables and the future of that, and just AI. Any final thoughts you want to leave us with? Like anything we didn't ask you about that you want to share, or any sort of other ideas?
Anything we need to check out? Any wearables?
Yeah.
I would. If you haven't already, I would definitely check out the Ray-Ban Metas. I feel like they are very well done. Especially if you wear glasses already. I certainly feel like if I have to wear glasses, they might as well have powers. And once you have them, you can't really imagine going back to having glasses without them. And I think as we start to roll more and more AI into some of these things, like, we're going to find some really interesting moments of interaction. I think we're going to really struggle with some of the boundaries in terms of things like companionship, definition around humanity, that sort of thing.
The definition of what, humanity?
Just connection and humanity.
Just some lightweight questions for you. Your Wednesday, Arvo.
One of my other hot takes was your next AI wearable won't be a product. It'll be a relationship. We'll stop really thinking about these things as tools in some instances, and start experiencing them as companions.
As partner, companion.
And so that definitely, I think, starts to push against some of what we have traditionally considered to be a real and genuine connection, particularly when we've got these things that are ambient and sort of with us at all times. So.
Yeah, that'll be full on once it's in a wearable, because even with the phone, it feels like there is a level of disconnect to get it away from you, to put it away. We do take them everywhere, but we can kind of even just put them out of reach if we like, quite easily. But watch, a pin, whatever it might be, like glasses, they're on. They're and glasses in particular, it's dual function, right? You're actually optically
I need these.
Maybe. You would have to switch. Oh, I want to take a break. I'm going to switch to my analog glasses. Get my monocle back out.
Monocle. That's old school. I like that.
Jared Tredly says, "Bring back the monocle."
That's a hot take. That's a hot take.
You heard it here first, people.
I love it.
I'm just trying to like imagine my parents like wearing something, or like I feel like adoption probably is very challenging, maybe for different genres, right, or eras.
Although I will say that everyone that I have like had a real conversation with who wears glasses, who've sort of played with the ones that I have, has come away very, very excited and has either bought them or plans to buy them. So
okay. Converting people.
I should be on commission.
Should be.
Use a discount code. Get a kickback. It's meta.
Well, guys, I have to hop. I have
in the comments.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
But yes, it was so awesome having you, Jevaun. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really enjoyed this.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
Till next time, everyone. We'll post this live.
Joined us too, and yes, we'll repost. Absolutely.
See you, folks.
Awesome.
Bye, everyone. Bye.